We have fire. It's burning down pretty good now. Just wasted all this time and effort. Let's give this another shot.
Hello, Bill here with Pale Horse Survival and Tactical. Glad you could join me for another episode. This episode is going to mark the beginning of a knotcraft / rope craft series that I've been wanting to shoot for some time now. I'm anticipating probably around a dozen videos in this series. I'm going to start out with basic rope terminology. And I'm going to keep it very simple because it can get pretty complicated, and I don't see any reason to go too in depth with it. And as far as knots go, I'm just going to demonstrate knots that are common bushcrafting knots that are utilitarian, that can be used in a number of bushcraft survival type situations. So with that said, we'll go ahead and we'll start out with some knotcraft, rope craft terminology, and I'm going to entitle this video will be known as video number 1, and I'm going to number each video in the series so people have a little easier time locating the videos should I reference back to a previous video that was shot. So we're going to go ahead and discuss some rope terminology. Stay tuned.
Okay, I'd like to go over some knotcraft or rope craft terminology, and I'm going to keep things very basic and simple for the purposes of this course here. What we're going to deal with basically are hitches, bends, knots, and lashings. Hitches are used to connect a rope to something in a non-permanent fashion. Hitches do not involve a knot, and they usually come undone pretty easily. Bends are joining knots to make things like a continuous loop or to join two pieces of rope or cordage together. Knots are exactly what they sound like. They may or may not be easy to untie depending on the knot used and how tight the knot was cinched down, also depending on how much load or weight was placed upon the rope or the cordage. And lashings are generally a combination of a hitch and knots. Lashings are used to put something together or to build something, such as tripods, for example. And two other pieces of terminology that we're going to use are the standing end of a rope and the working end. The standing end of the rope is the end that's anchored to something, such as a tree or whatever. If you tie it to a tree and you're working off to this end, this is the standing end. The opposite end is known as the working end or the running end. And so that's pretty much the basic terminology that we're going to deal with here in this course. There's a lot of other terms, and it actually gets pretty complicated. There's no reason to do that here in this course. So anyways, let's move on to the next part, and that'll be stop knots. Stay tuned. Okay, this is what we're going to be working towards putting together. This is a hank of cordage. If you have rope or cordage that's coiled up, it's known as a hank. And this is just a 550 paracord. And this is what I call a preloaded Ridgeline hank. It's coiled up in a manner that will deploy tangle free. It's very, very fast and easy to deploy. By the end of this course, you'll know how to construct one of these, and I'm going to do a full demonstration on how to set up a Ridgeline that'll take all of maybe 60 seconds at most. And so what we have here, this consists of a Bowline knot here with a loop, preloaded hank, and a stop knot on the end here. So the first thing we're going to discuss are stop knots. And I'm going to do a little quick demo here how this just comes apart. You can carry these in your go bag, in your pack. It's a very convenient way of quickly setting up and deploying your cordage for a ridge line or whatever you need it for. And the stop knots are placed in the end of cordage, and they're an insurance policy is what they amount to. If your knot should fail for whatever reason, the stop knot will keep the cordage from pulling through. It'll stop it, hence the term stop knot, and it'll keep your knot from failing. So if your knot should slip for whatever reason, this is your insurance policy. This is what's called a single stop knot. It's very easy to make. Now, a single stop knot you want to use if your cordage or your rope isn't going to be underneath a lot of load. If it's not going to bear a lot of weight, you can trust a single stop knot. It's very easy to do. Just take it and run it through just like that. Cinch it down. That's all there is to it. That's a single stop knot. Demonstrate that one more time. Single stop knot. And stay tuned, we're going to take a look at the figure 8 stop knot. Okay, now if your cordage or your rope is going to bear a load, it's going to carry a lot more weight. A better insurance policy is the figure 8 stop knot. To do that, just fold your cordage over. We'll run it this way. Fold your cordage over. Whoop, sorry about that, guys. Let me start that over again. Drifted out of frame. Fold your cordage over. Bring it over just like this and through the loop or the hole. That's a figure 8. Figure 8 knot. That's a more secure knot than the single, and it's a larger knot. So if you have a lot more load or weight on your line, this is a little bit better insurance policy. So let's demonstrate that one more time. Fold it over, go underneath, back through the hole or the loop, pull it tight. There's your number 8. Okay, the next one we're going to learn is the Bowline Knot. It's spelled out Bowline, but it's actually pronounced Bowline is the correct pronunciation. So the first thing we're going to do, you can see how this knot is designed. It's a very stable knot with the stop knot. If this was to slip for whatever reason, the stop knot would stop it from unraveling right here, from pulling all the way through. So that's the purpose of that. So we're going to go ahead and dismantle this guy, and then I'm going to demonstrate. It's pretty easy to get undone unless it's been cinched down really tight. And okay, so the first thing we're going to do, the length of your tail here, your tag end, will determine the size of your loop. So if you have a large whatever that you're going to place the loop over, you'll need a longer tail if you're looking for a longer loop. If it's smaller, use a shorter tail. So for the purposes of this this demonstration here, for what we're doing, we want to loop about as big as we had in the beginning, because it needs to be big enough that the hank will pass through this. Don't need it really any bigger than that. So the first thing we're going to do is, whoops, sorry about that, guys. I'm going to use about this much of a tail. Turn the rope over onto itself. This tag end should be on top. We're going to run this up through the hole, around the back side, and back through the hole, and then cinch it down. And the way you can tell that you've done this correctly, your tail is going to be inside of your loop. If you have it in the loop, you're good to go. Let's demonstrate that again. I'm going to use a little more of a tail this time. Bring it over on top. Go up through the hole, underneath your running end, and back into the hole. And that's your bowline. And I'll explain it the way the Cub Scouts teach it. You form your hole. The rabbit comes out of his hole. He sees the hunter. He runs behind the tree and back into his hole. And that's the Cub Scout method. And stay tuned, we're going to go to the Slipknot next. Okay, now we're going to do a Slipknot. And this is going to be part of our tensioning setup, or what we call a loop and tackle. And the main thing to remember is this will be your, say we have this side to the right anchored off to a tree, so this is our standing end to the right. This is our running end or working end to the left. Okay, so what we want to do is, say we're going to run this around a tree. Okay, so you want to leave enough of a tail here to go around the tree. You're going to move down the line, giving yourself enough slack. Make a loop or a hole, whichever you want to refer to it as. And the important thing is the line that you run through here has to be the working end or the running end, otherwise this won't work. It cannot be the standing end. This is static. We've already anchored this end off, so we're working in this direction. So what we have here is a slip knot. So let's do this again. Make your hole, your loop. Double your running in, you're working in over. Pull it through. And that's your slip knot. I'll demonstrate that one more time. Make your hole. Take your running in, pass it through, snug it down. Now you have a slip knot. Now this will be part of the loop and tackle. So we have our running end working end here. Now say this goes around a tree. So we run this around a tree. This end has already been mounted, and I'll show you how to do that with using the Bowline knot, and I'm going to demonstrate two different methods of attaching that to the tree. So this is already has our Bowline on the end, so we'll imagine that it's already mounted over here, attached, anchored to a tree. We're building our loop and tackle on this end, and we're going to use another technique called a round turn in the slip knot, and it's going to be a tensioning setup, a loop and tackle. The round turn, once we pull it, it acts like a taut line hitch. So once we pull it tight, we let go, it will hold. It's friction knot, the round turn. I'm going to demonstrate all of that when we move to the outdoor portion of this demonstration, this video. So we take this working end, we run it around a tree. We're going to go back through this loop here. This is a loop and tackle now. The round turn will pass twice through here, just like that. That's a round turn, a self-tensioning device. When this part is around a tree and we pull it, it's going to snug. Pull this ridgeline tight. And when we let go, the friction will hold this in place. And I'll demonstrate all of that when we move to the outdoor portion. Nice thing about the Slipknot, comes undone. Very easy to recover your cordage. Matter of fact, this entire setup is very easy to dismantle. It takes about 60 seconds to put it together, and about 60 seconds to take it down. Okay, so now I'm going to demonstrate how to make the preloaded Ridgeline hank. So again, we want a loop just big enough to pass the hank through. There's no need to make it any bigger than that. So we're going to need about this much tail here. I'm going to kick the light on the camera. Just get a little bit better lighting here. Going to make her Bowline. Actually, I need a little more slack here. And put a stop knot in here. There's the stop. Snug it down. Now how we do the preloaded hank, you want to run it across your hand, leave about 2.5 inches of slack hanging off the end. I'm going to wind it around the pinky and thumb. You don't have to get too tight with it. You just want it Not tight enough to where you're pulling your fingers together, but just snug. And when you have about 2.5 foot of cordage left on the tail out here, pull it off your hand, off your fingers, neaten everything up a little bit. Now don't wrap it too tight. If you wrap it too tight, it won't want to deploy very easily. Just make it snug. You don't have to get too overly tight with it here. Okay, and on this end here, place a single stop knot. The way you terminate this is just pass it under one of the loops, the last loop, and pull it snug. And the reason why I leave a tail sticking up, this is all set to be carried in a go bag in your pack. There we go. Getting everything centered up here. In a go bag in your pack. What I like to do, so we don't have this loop hanging out here to catch on things and possibly unravel this. Remember, it'll pull right out. That's the beauty of this setup. Pass the hank through the loop, and then hook it behind this tail here. Nice thing about that, it holds it. And that is a preloaded hank, Ridgeline hank. It's all set to deploy. It takes about 60 seconds to set up a Ridgeline and about as much time to take it apart. So the next part of this video, we're going to move to the outdoors and do a demonstration with this. Stay tuned. Okay, I have a couple of suitable trees here that we're going to run the Ridgeline across to. And hopefully the wind, it's a little windy out here, so I hope it doesn't screw me up, so I'm going to try and talk a bit loud. We're going to go ahead and anchor it off to this tree here. We're going to run we have the hank here that we put together earlier in the video, and we're going to run it across behind me here to another tree. So the first step to running this is to anchor it off. So we undo our bowline here, or bowline rather. And there's two different ways you can anchor this to the tree. Pull out some cordage here. Run it around your anchor point. The first way you can anchor this is you take the hank and pass it through the loop of the bowline. Just like that. Very easy. The second way to do this is to use a toggle. It's just a stick that I broke off a tree, a dead stick. So to use this, I'm going to run the loop through the bowline, just like that. Stick the toggle in and then snug it down. And the nice thing about this technique, it's a much faster way to recover the cordage when we go to break this down. To undo this, you just take the pressure off the line, pull the toggle out, and it instantly comes undone. The other method works just as fine too, passing the hank through the loop of the bowline. but it takes just a few seconds longer to pull the hank back through the loop. So let's go ahead and we'll run this across to the other tree. Stay tuned. Okay, we're over at the other tree here, and we're going to terminate our ridge line here, so we run it around the back side of the tree. So let our running end hang down here. We're going to put a loop in here, Slipknot, just like we did earlier in the video, just like that. Take your running end. We're going to do what's called a round turn. We just made a loop and tackle. Run your tag end through the loop. And then run it through the loop one more time. So you pass it through twice. This is your round turn. Pull it. This tightens up our ridge line, tight as a guitar string, and when we let go of this end, it holds. This is a friction knot. I mean, this thing is tight. Take the loop. I'm going to put a little stop knot here. Take the loop, lay the loop over the top of the line, take your tag in, pass your tag in up through here. We just created another slip knot. And that'll help hold this in case it slips. If you want to get really neat about it, you can take your excess stick your excess inside the loop and snug it down. That way you don't have any tag end hanging down on the ground there. So now that's a nice, neat setup here, and a nice tight ridge line. To undo this, it's very simple. Pull this out, pull your knot. That comes undone if you pull in the opposite direction on the round turn. Pull this out, and that slip knot comes right out. We go across to the other side and pull the toggle out, and they'll come undone. We'll head over there right now. Our original anchor. Pull the toggle out. Okay, just like we did earlier. I'll lay this across the hand. Leave a couple inches hanging off the end. Whoop, looks like I caught the camera. Serval feet hanging down on the bottom. Pull it off the hand there, neaten it up. Throw a stop knot in the end. Pass it under the last coil. Everything kind of centered up here. Pass this through, and boom, we're done. I'll do this one more time on a wide shot so you can see it in action, and then we'll conclude the video. Stay tuned. Video as much as I did making it today. I apologize again about the wind. It figures the weather finally breaks the first day I get out to do a video, and it's a windy day, so hopefully it didn't mess the video up too bad. It's still beautiful out here. At least the sun's shining and it's not raining. So please like, subscribe, and share. I hope all of you are having an outstanding day or night, depending on where you're located, and I will see all of you very soon on the next one. Everybody take care. Bye-bye. Hey, I'm back. Couldn't help but notice all the wild edibles out here. Things are just growing like crazy, and wanted to go ahead and add a few of these to the video. I know it has nothing to do with knotcraft, but everything to do with survival and bushcraft is having a good knowledge of wild edible botanicals. This is growing everywhere out here. Literally, it's just all over the place. This is Buttercup oxalis, also known as wood sorrel. And you can see all the yellow flowers. It's just now starting to bloom. Some more flowers back behind me here. And you can always tell this by the heart-shaped leaves. It has a nice lemony, tangy flavor to it. It's one of my favorite wild edibles. Really, really good. It's good bushcraft seasoning. You fill the body of a cavity of a fish with a good handful of this, and as the fish cooks, it'll impart the lemony, tangy flavor into the meat. It's good bushcraft seasoning. And spotted up here some bull thistle. Well, actually, here's some more stuff here. This is miner's lettuce. This is also one of my absolute favorite wild edibles. A lot of it growing out here. This is real easy to identify because the stem rose up through the center of the leaf. Here's another one here. Now both oxalis and miner's lettuce are cool season annuals, so as soon as it starts to warm up, the stuff is going to go into its flowering phase, and then it'll die back until the following year. So if you're going to harvest it, you got to harvest it early. This stuff is really tasty. It's one of the best tasting wild edibles that I've ever found. And spotted some bull thistle over here. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Oh, here we go. This is bull thistle, the first year rosette. This will grow up into a stalk, and it'll have a yellow flower, thistle flower at the top. And all parts of this, aside from the thorns, all parts of this are edible. I have videos on the channel on all of these edibles. You can skim through there and find them. And I got tons more videos as well. I'm probably going to harvest some of this miner's lettuce. It's absolutely delicious, plain or in a salad. Anyways, guys, just noticed all these and wanted to toss it on to the end of the video here. I'm kind of like a kid in a candy store when I'm out foraging for edibles, so a good knowledge of wild edibles turns all of the strangers in the environment into familiar friends. So when you're out, you'll notice things. Here's another bull thistle. Anyways, go through the channel, find these videos if you're interested, and I explain a lot more about the plants they're harvesting and preparation. Well, they're all over here. There's a bunch of them growing. Anyways, guys, take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.